So about motorbikes, talking about motorbikes in Leeds this hour, and whether or not you think they should be allowed to use the bus lanes. If you are driving a car, private vehicle, if you go in that bus lane, they'll have you. This would mean a change. Should it be happening? 0800 389 3333. It is being talked about in Leeds. A board of councillors are looking at whether it should happen. Now, motorbikes in bus lanes does happen in London and other local authorities permit it. It's about easing congestion. Some have tried it and withdrawn it, parts of Birmingham, for example. But should it happen here? Well, the Leeds Motorcycle Action Group wrote to Leeds City Council and asked them to allow a motorcycle to go into a bus lane at all times. Would that work for you? Would it be safe? Would it ease traffic? How would you feel as a motorist stuck on the inner ring road, let's say, and then a motorbike comes up past you? There you go, in the bus lane. Call me, it's a free phone number, 0800 389 3333. Thanks for texting 81333. Start that message with the word Leeds and tweet me at BBC Leeds. Now with us from the Motorcycle Action Group, the Yorkshire rep is Manny. How are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you very much.
So what exactly did you ask the council to talk about?
Well, this has been going on for about 7 years now. We've through both Leeds City Council and then latterly with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to get this put in place, because West Yorkshire is now a massive conurbation, really. There's no real distinct borders between the cities. So we're wanting to get motorcycles in bus lanes because the council are constantly banging on about congestion, and surely to encourage motorcycles is a really good thing. Congestion, cut pollution, and if you can encourage people to do that and move away from cars, it's been proven in different studies that if you change the dynamics and have more motorcycles in the traffic, it will eliminate congestion.
Yeah, how do you know it will ease congestion? Are there figures around to prove that happens?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. In 2014 in Belgium, which is very, very congested, as you may well know, there was a report at a town called Leuven at the university there, and they reckoned that if there's a 10% modal shift from private cars to motorcycles, time losses for all vehicles dropped by 40%. And they extrapolated that out, and if it was 20% of cars were replaced by motorcycles, then traffic congestion was eradicated altogether.
All right, I don't know the percentage of motorbike riders here, whether it's similar.
Leeds City Council. Well, no. At the minute, this is Leeds City Council's own figures. The amounts of commuters going into and out of Leeds on a daily basis is 1% motorcycles and 1% cycles.
So if it were to change and they could use the bus lane motorcycles, you believe more people would do it? That's the long argument.
Yes, it makes people feel safer. I mean, the current law allows motorcycles to filter. So in your lead up to me introducing me, you said that how would a vehicle feel if it was stuck in traffic and a motorcycle cruised past them in a bus lane? That happens already because we filter through the traffic, which is a completely legal manoeuvre. But what the councillors seem to be doing is they're quite happy to protect cycles who are 1% of the road users, but that's at the detriment of motorcycles who are also 1% of road users. It seems really unfair.
What are the arguments against this?
People seem to have this perception that motorcycles may cause problems with interactions with cycles. But if you look at the width of a bus lane and you've got a cycle in it, you've got another...
Oh, I know you're in a field, Manny. Have I lost you?
No, can you hear me?
Okay, I can. So you were saying if you look at the width of a bus lane and there's a cycle, a bicycle, you reckon there's room for a motorbike to go past, do you?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if a bus can overtake a cycle, surely a motorcycle can.
All right. They did trial it in Birmingham. Am I right that it's been withdrawn in places, this scheme?
No, it's absolutely wrong. I mean, I read this article yesterday in the Evening Post and also on your website. I've spoken to the guy who's in charge of communications for MAG nationally, and he was actually the former West Midlands rep. And I spoke to him this morning, and what he said was, in one area of Birmingham, which is, I believe, Sandwell Council, they did some development work on a bus lane, and when they put the traffic regulation orders back in place, they forgot to add motorcycles being allowed into the bus lane.
Okay.
So that's it. The rest of the West Midlands Combined Authority, which includes Birmingham, allow motorcycles in bus lanes.
Thank you, Manny. Good to talk to you. We'll keep our eye on what's going on with this. That's Manny. He's the Yorkshire rep for the Motorcycle Action Group. Hamleys Green, good afternoon. So I want to know, would that be all right with you? Is it a good idea to let motorbikes into bus lanes?
Join the conversation. Call
0800 389 3333.
the Big Yorkshire Phone In.
BBC Radio Leeds.
James in Leeds has texted, "Hi James, you say as a motorcyclist in Leeds, I think this is a great idea and about time. Other major cities in the UK have had this for years and it's proved it works by being a lot safer and has dramatically cut down on accidents involving motorcycles. Keep up the good work, Manny," says James in Leeds. It's the Big Yorkshire Phone In and we're talking about that suggestion. How do you feel about it? Let's speak to the Alwoodley councillor, Neil Buckley, who's joining us now on the Big Yorkshire Phone In. Neil, good afternoon.
Yes, hello there.
Hello. Do you want to allow motorbikes into bus lanes?
Yes, it just seemed to me, I think you picked this up, I was in a scrutiny board the other day and we touched on this item, and it just seemed to me that at the moment, as everyone's well aware, the council is spending about £200 million worth of money which they were given from the government to improve transport in the city. And a lot of work is going on with improving roundabouts, putting lights in which favour buses, etc. And the whole point of this is to increase, or decrease rather, bus journey times, which is a good thing. But my point in all this is that if possible, we ought to try to decrease the journey times for all types of transport as well. And part of this, it just seemed to me, was that allowing motorcycles through bus lanes, after all, they'd only be in the bus lane for a few seconds, typically, would be a reasonable measure. And that's my position on that.
Yeah. We're waiting for better transport across the county, never mind in Leeds. Are you sure you're going to get any money even to fulfil this idea?
Well, the money is already secured. That's not a problem. There's been 174 million, which was given by the government to Leeds, specifically to deal with this transport problem, because Leeds is actually the biggest city in Europe which doesn't have a mass transit scheme. Now, the administration have decided to throw their lot in entirely with buses, and that's why they're making all these alterations to the roundabouts and so on. And there's nothing wrong with that as far as it goes. But when it comes to things like bus lanes, what I've been saying for quite a time now is that wherever possible, the bus lane ought to be in addition to the carriageway. And for example, where you have bus stops, people can see this. If you happen to be sitting on the left-hand side of the bus, there are lots of space typically at the side which could be used in order to provide a bus lay-by. And I think the motorcycle point is just part of this. Let's decrease the journey time.
All right, paint that picture then. What are you suggesting then? So where there's a bus stop, there ought to be a lay-by. So the bus can pull in?
Absolutely, yeah. Off the carriageway.
Right. But it'd still be in a bus lane. It's not going to move away from it being a bus lane. It would just be an extension of a bus lane, wouldn't it?
Well, not exactly, because if you think of somewhere like Scott Hall Road, for example,
yes.
If you're travelling down Scott Hall Road into town, there's a lot of space on the left, again, for example, going down through Potter Newton and so on, and that should be converted into a bus lane in addition to the existing carriageway. And wherever a bus stops on the carriageway, one in particular now causes problems every morning, there is no reason why you shouldn't have the bus lane, or even if you didn't have a bus lane, the bus should be able to pull off the carriageway to allow the other traffic to flow as freely as possible.
Right. I mean, yeah, I can see what you mean, but that is such a congested route. Don't you think it's going to cause more vehicles who are not buses to be even more congested?
No, it's just the opposite, really, because the other point about all this is that we have this massive air quality problem. And if you've got buses which are standing at bus stops on the carriageway, there's a huge queue of vehicles behind them, all stationary, all with engines running, and it actually makes the air quality worse. So I think what we can do is get a double positive here. We could actually improve the air quality and improve journey times for everybody.
Thank you very much. Councillor Neil Buckley, he's Conservative for Old Woodley. And this is a suggestion that's being thought about now. We're talking about motorcycles being allowed to use bus lanes in Leeds. Been talked about by Leeds City Council. Should that happen? 0800 389 33. This hour, would it be okay if motorbikes were allowed to use the bus lanes? They're talking about it in Leeds. Now, Mr. Landu is on the line. How are you?
Good afternoon, Liz. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. You're the national rep for Taxis in Unite the Union. You've called us. What do you make of this?
Regional and national. Yeah, we fully support the idea of motorbikes being allowed into what we call public service lanes.
Why?
Well, because if you look at the national statistics, there are less accidents between motorbikes and other road users, and they are less in the ascendancy than actual cyclists.
Yet some say, though it is in operation elsewhere, that it's more of a threat to a cyclist than it is to another vehicle. Do you not think that's not right then?
I think there's possibly the potential for that argument to be used, but when you look at the concept of a public service lane as we refer to them, you have other road users using them, and the actual statistics prove that cyclists are less affected by those road users in a public service lane than they are when they actually join the main carriageway.
Yeah, you don't get taxi quite like that privilege as well then?
Yeah, well, we obviously campaign on behalf of the taxis in Leeds and nationally for them to be able to use public service lanes to give a quicker service for those passengers.
Any sign of that happening?
Well, it's already happening in Leeds and across other parts of the country as well.
Thank you. Good to hear from you. I'm glad you're listening.
Try always.
Good. Mr. Landau in Leeds has called the Big Yorkshire phone-in. Andy's listening in Meltham. He says, of course, motorbikes should be allowed in bus lanes. We pay enough for our tax, our licence, our MOT tests and our training, while cyclists, say Andy in Meltham, pay nothing. It's about safety as well. It's what Leeds are thinking about doing. As it's been happening. Apparently it happens in London and it happens in other parts of the country, including Birmingham. It's just that in Birmingham, they've got narrow lanes in some parts of the city, bus lanes, public service lanes. That's what they were calling it, yeah. And so it can't happen in some. But would you be happy if it did? John from Shipley, hello. He says this, I see nothing wrong with them using the bus lane. They pose a hazard to drivers either way. Obviously not somebody on a motorbike. Fan. I'm just, to me, and I drive in and out of Leeds every day, I don't see so many motorbikes, to be honest. Maybe the idea is, and I think it was explained as such, we'd see more if this were allowed to happen. All right, we will be checking the roads for you in just a moment with George Willis. This hour, we're talking about motorbikes being allowed in the bus lanes in Leeds. David in Keighley, good afternoon. He says this in a text. What a load of rubbish, bus lanes. Motorcycle riders cut in and out of traffic already, says Dave. I've never seen one waiting in a queue ever. Straight in front every time, says David in Keighley.
Call
0800 389 3333.
BBC Radio Leeds.
Carol says on the motorbikes, so the motorists have bikes weaving in and out on their right and also on their left from the bus lane. That could be interesting, says Carol. It'd be all right if we allowed motorcycles in bus lanes in Leeds. Council are talking about it. They've set up some committee to explore it. It does happen elsewhere, including London. Would it be okay here? This texter says, I've got a caveat on it. only motorbikes over 125cc and being able to prove that they've passed a stringent motorbike test and not mopeds or those less than 125cc. I think I understand what you're saying.